I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Hey everybody, it's time again for another Best Movie You Never Saw, and this week we're taking a look at Paul Verhoeven's Hollow Man. Now, at the turn of the century, Paul Verhoeven needed a hit. Having started the 90s as the biggest director in the business, coming off of RoboCop and Total Recall, the first half of the decade helped establish him as one of the most idiosyncratic and beautifully trashy directors in town, with Basic Instinct, a boundary-pushing smash hit that made a star out of Sharon Stone. However, Verhoeven, in an attempt to be provocative, went way too far with 1995's Showgirls, the first mainstream big-budget NC-17 film, which turned out to be a financial flop and was ridiculed in the press, sweeping the Razzies and torpedoing star Elizabeth Berkley's career, although in a surprise twist 25 years later, it's gone on to become a major cult classic that's earned the studio that produced it over $100 million in home video sales, making it among their more evergreen projects. His comeback in 1997 was Starship Troopers, but that also failed to recoup its $100 million plus budget, with it also failing to launch Casper Van Dien as the next matinee idol star, although reviewers, which took note of the film as a satire, were largely positive this time, and like Showgirls, it went on to become a major earner on home video, successful enough to spawn a modest franchise. Yet, as the decade drew to a close, Verhoeven badly needed a hit. He stated at the time that he was looking to do a film that was more broadly commercial and that he planned to tone down the over-the-top sex and violence from his previous films for what would turn out to be a high-tech take on The Invisible Man, Hollow Man, written by Andrew W. Marlowe, who was then red-hot coming off of his screenplays for Air Force One and End of Days, and would later go on to create the long-running series Castle. Despite Verhoeven's promises to tone down the violence and sex, Hollow Man was still pretty controversial when it hit theaters, with many criticizing how cold-blooded the film was, which included a graphic rape sequence, dog murder, and some shocking gore in the final act. The film was actually a modest success at the box office, grossing $72 million domestically, although the budget was quite high, and it came close to breaking about $200 million overseas, meaning it probably broke even and maybe made the studio a bit of money. While not the big commercial hit he was hoping for, it was solid enough, but got further mired in controversy when it became known that Sony actually created a fictional film critic, David Manning, in order to supply their own fake in-house critical quotes for TV spots and ads, although this fact didn't become widely known until a year later when three more Manning-approved films, The Animal, A Knight's Tale, and American Sweethearts hit theaters. Verhoeven himself voiced displeasure with the film, saying that he shouldn't have made it and that he regretted doing so much that he left Hollywood to direct films in Europe, including Black Book and Elle, and write a widely controversial book about Jesus. For my money, Verhoeven has nothing to be ashamed of with Hollow Man, as it's an intriguing precursor to what Leigh Whannell did with The Invisible Man earlier this year. In both films, The Invisible Man is a toxic misogynist who uses his invisibility to sexually violate the objects of his affection and commit murder. In both films, the actual lead is a woman, with the heroine here played by Elizabeth Shue, whose character formerly dated Bacon's and works with him in the high-tech lab where they're doing invisibility studies.
I thought we were great together.
You were great. I was just standing next to you.
Unlike Leigh Whannell's movie though, it's not digital experiments, it's more chemical. What's especially intriguing about Hollow Man versus The Invisible Man is that Kevin Bacon's character, Sebastian Cain, isn't truly evil before he becomes invisible. Sure, he's egotistical, fragile, and perhaps a closeted misogynist, but his evolution into becoming truly evil only really happens once he becomes invisible. In a very creepy scene early on, he uses his invisibility to molest one of the doctors on the team, played by Deadwood's Kim Dickens, and this is on the first night, mind you. And what's even creepier about this is that after, when she tells the staff what happened, they not only believe her, they just don't care.
Thought I should tell someone.
What do you want to do?
I don't know.
How fucked up is that, people? From there on, he gets worse and worse, telling Shue's character that you wouldn't believe what you're capable of when you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror.
It's amazing what you can do when you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror anymore.
Sebastian.
Goodbye, Linda.
Sebastian!
By losing his visibility, he in effect loses his soul and becomes a violent rapist in a scene that was widely controversial back in 2000 and was even harsher before being toned down. Bacon goes all in on making Kane a horrible monster, and it's effective against typecasting because I think we all see Kevin Bacon as, you know, the sweet kid from Footloose and a nice guy.
Rhonda,
Yeah?
I just wanted to.
For her part, Elizabeth Shue is a rock-solid action heroine, and I wish she got more roles like this. Besides The Hollow Man, the only other one that I can really think of is Piranha 3D, which I think is a crazy underrated movie.
They took my penis!
I like that the film departs from the norm in this one, with her boyfriend, played by a young Josh Brolin, being sidelined in the final battle to make this her fight.
Thought I'd save you for a change.
My only issue with the movie has always been this. Sebastian's invisibility seems to give him super strength, with him covered with enough burns at the end of the film that he's no longer invisible. I mean, he looks hideous, and there's no way he'd be able to stand moreover fight Shue. I should also say though, one of the best things about the movie are the cutting edge special effects, and to my mind, the way that they depict invisibility in this film has yet to be equaled. The transformation sequence in particular is grotesque and brilliant. I remember they had a really hard time showing any scenes from this in the ads because it's so gruesome. I also love the creepy score by regular Verhoeven collaborator Jerry Goldsmith. While it's not one of Verhoeven's best movies, I still think it's a pretty good Invisible Man movie that's well worth checking out.